Looking for these better days.
It is Thursday, June 11th. I'm Scott Seidenberg. Here's what you need to know to make today a better day. It was the greatest comeback in NBA Finals history. Plus, the World Cup gets underway today. That's right. We will have a preview of the World Cup coming up on this episode of Better Day presented by FanDuel. But we start with last night's Knicks come from behind win over the San Antonio Spurs 107-106. Taking a 3-1 series lead in the NBA Finals. It was the greatest comeback in NBA Finals history. The Knicks were down 29 points in the third quarter. It was 81-52 with 9:27 to go in the third quarter, and they came all the way back to win 107-106 on OG Anunoby's tip-in with 1.2 seconds left. The comeback was almost completed when Josh Hart picked up a loose ball turnover and had a breakaway to either dunk the ball in or lay it up and give the Knicks their first lead of the game late in the fourth quarter, but he missed the layup. He was kind of like in between, didn't know whether he was going to dunk it or if it was going to be a layup, so he misses it. Then Stephon Castle gets fouled. He goes to the free throw line and makes two free throws. Oh, this is after the Knicks took the lead. But then Spurs went up. Knicks got a lead on Jalen Brunson three-pointer. And then it was the free throws that gave the Spurs a lead. And then the final sequence. I mean, I'm still speechless. Like, I really am speechless about what went down last night. So after Stephon Castle makes two free throws with 30 seconds left to give the Spurs a 106-105 lead. The Knicks call a timeout and advance the ball up the floor. And then Jalen Brunson misses a shot. De'Aaron Fox gets the rebound, and it's kind of like a loose ball that gets kicked forward. And De'Aaron Fox essentially has a breakaway that not a breakaway because there was defenders there, that OG Anunoby blocks it. And so the layup is missed right at the rim. That would have gave the Spurs a 3-point lead. So OG's defense there, and it led to the miss. The Knicks then get the basketball, kind of a scramble play. Jose Alvarado's got the ball at midcourt, and the Spurs had a foul to give, so they fouled. 5.7 seconds left. Knicks with the designed inbound play. Jalen Brunson takes a deep three, misses it, and OG Anunoby, the hero, tips it in with 1 second remaining. Spurs call timeout, advance it, and great defense by Mitchell Robinson, not allowing Wemby to get to the basket for what was a designed alley-oop. And the Knicks held on 107-106, completing the greatest comeback in NBA Finals history. At one point, the Knicks were plus 2,500 to win the game. Plus 2,500 on the live money line to win the game. When it was all said and done, OG Anunoby had a tremendous performance. And listen, people are going to be talking about OG Anunoby to win the Most Valuable Player Award up on FanDuel right now. He is your third favorite at plus 430. Jalen Brunson minus 140. Victor Wembanyama plus 350. And then OG plus 430. OG last night finished with 33 points on 10 of 15 shooting, 7 of 9 from three-point range, and including that tip-in that gave the Knicks the win. Jalen Brunson had 36 points on 12 of 25 shooting, 3 of 7 from three-point range last night. Karl-Anthony Towns was quiet, but he was in foul trouble early. And that was the storyline early in the game. Like, I feel like we watched like 3 different games last night. Really, 2 different games. But early on, Towns picks up a foul on the first play of the game. And if you watch that whole first quarter, and if you were on social media and you saw everybody complaining about the officiating, like with good reason, the refs were, I don't know. It was, I'm not being facetious here. It was the worst officiating I think I've seen in an NBA Finals game, maybe even in an NBA game. Like, there were so many calls, ticky-tack calls that were called, and I tweeted something out last night. I thought that, you know what, maybe the officials were upset with Mike Brown's post-game comments after game number 3, and they were out to prove a point here in game number 4 because everything was going the Spurs' way from the ref's perspective. And then everything was going the Spurs' way from a basketball perspective. In the first 8 minutes, the Spurs were 6 of 9 from three-point range. They could not miss in the first quarter, and they continued their hot shooting in the second quarter. As I mentioned, they pulled a 29-point lead in the third quarter. Like, They outscored the Knicks 41-22 in the first quarter. So the first quarter system was dead last night, but we even had hesitation because of how good the Spurs are in the first quarter of games. And the Spurs first quarter just won out last night as opposed to the first quarter, team coming off of the loss system. So that system now falls, and that system being the team that loses in the series is favored in the next game. That system falls in the first quarter to 22 9 and 1 straight up. The Spurs, though, improved to 15-5-2 in the first quarter in this postseason, 12-7 against the spread, and 9-1 in their last 10 games against the spread in the first quarter. And the system is perfectly aligned here for game number 5, as the Spurs are the home favorite, trailing 3-1. San Antonio, a 5.5-point favorite on Saturday. Now, there's 2 days off. So 2 days off. Saturday is game number 5, and the Spurs are 5.5-point favorites, total of 217.5. We're going to be on the Spurs in the first quarter. It's hard not to like the Spurs in the game. And if you like the Spurs in the game, then it's probably going to be a higher scoring game. But I have a feeling we are headed back to Madison Square Garden for a game number 6 next Tuesday. So, again, I'm still in shock with what I saw. I still can't believe it. An insane comeback. I mean, a live betting dream. You had so many opportunities to live bet that game. And just, I mean, if you're the New York Knicks, how do you lose this series now? Like, how do you lose this series? You just don't, right? Like, you don't lose this series up 3-1, but also on the heels of the greatest comeback in finals history. In all time NBA playoff history, teams with a 3-1 lead, 288 wins, 15 losses out of the 303 playoff series that have had a 3-1 lead. Now, if we break that down to just the NBA Finals, 38 times a team has had a 3-1 lead in the NBA Finals. 37 of those teams have gone on to win. The most famous one, the only team to lose, the Golden State Warriors against the Cleveland Cavaliers and LeBron James. So there you have it. The only time it's happened in the NBA Finals, the Cavs coming back from the Warriors. So the Knicks have history on their side. They have momentum on their side. And we are just counting down the days until the New York Knicks become NBA champions. No disrespect to the San Antonio Spurs. And trust me, tomorrow on the program, we're going to have AJ Hoffman on. We'll get a preview of game number 5 from a Spurs perspective. I do like the Spurs in game number 5. I especially like them in the first quarter. But I think when the series shifts back to Madison Square Garden for game number 6, the Knicks will win the NBA title. Stanley Cup final, game number 5 is tonight in Carolina. The Hurricanes and Knights are knotted at 2 games apiece. And I referenced this on yesterday's show. I'm just surprised that the total was 5.5. Well, not surprised anymore because the total has gone up. On FanDuel right now, Hurricanes minus 152 favorites, total of 6.5. So think about that. Yesterday, you could have had over 5.5, and you could also now have under 6.5. So if the game lands on 6, I mean, think about that middle, right? But yeah, I was shocked that the total was still 5.5, given the fact that all 4 games have gone over, and now there's been an adjustment on FanDuel. As I mentioned, the total is 6.5 for tonight's game. All right, coming up next tonight is the start of the World Cup, and it's going to be an amazing month of soccer. We're going to be betting on this stuff. We're going to have insight on this stuff, but I bring on the experts when it comes to other sports and especially soccer. Brad Thomas is our guy. So we will have a full preview coming up now with Brad Thomas on the World Cup. Well, the World Cup begins today. That's right. It is an expanded field, 3 nations hosting it here in North America, the United States, Canada, and Mexico. And joining us right now to break down World Cup 2026 is our man, Brad Thomas. Brad, talk to me first about this expanded field because it's unlike any World Cup we've ever seen before, with more nations, more groups, and more teams advancing to the knockout stage.
Yeah, I think one thing that's not really getting talked about is how much different these matches are going to play with teams knowing that 1 point could be the difference of advancing or being eliminated. And what I mean by that, I saw projections that said there'll probably be 50% of the teams that have 2 points will advance to the knockout stages. So you think about teams like South Africa, Bosnia, teams that can bunker down defensively. They know if they draw 2 matches, they're not gonna concede a ton. There's a
Hmm.
real possibility that they make it to the next round. So when they're playing teams like Mexico, and I'm using South Africa as an example, why would you play a tiki-taka kinda style? Why would you open up? Why would you not just hold the ball, be strong in your defensive line, and make sure that there's no space for the opposition to operate and you don't concede goals?
Do you think because of that, we're going to see more draws in this tournament? Because teams might be less willing to take chances, as you mentioned, knowing that, hey, if as long as we get a point here for the draw, we have a good chance of advancing to the round of 32.
I do. I think that's going to be one of the factors. I also think the factor that there's going to be a lot of teams that are still acclimating to the weather, right? Like the French national team was training in Boston, Massachusetts, and they were talking about how hot it was. We saw England training in, where was that? In Miami, and they were struggling with the heat. Listen, I just got back from the first half of the England versus Costa Rica friendly, and I was wearing a bathing suit and a cabana top. So I could have been more comfortable. I was drenched in sweat. Now
Mm.
imagine these players going to the games and playing in these high leverage situations. They're just going to just kind of, I think it's going to be more of preserving your energy because the group stage is going to be such a long process. You
Mm.
do not want to cramp up, then tear something or pull something and miss out on the knockout stages because that's really where the money is going to be made for these teams.
That's a great point. So maybe we target some of the games that are being played here in the United States where the heat and the humidity might come into play. You know, maybe
Yep.
Mexico City's different because of the elevation, a little bit
Yep.
cooler, whatnot. But obviously, look at where these games are being played. Obviously, if there's indoors, outdoors, the United States coming up tomorrow will play their opener at SoFi Stadium. So it is open air, but it's a roof, and they
Yep.
do have some sort of climate control. There's some wind. So obviously, not every stadium is built the same when it comes to these matches. Talk to me about the United States, Brad. What does this team look like this year? The one thing that I found interesting was that up until a couple of days ago, and maybe still this could be the case because I haven't followed it as closely as you have. We don't know who's going to be our starting netminder. The United States' strength for all of my soccer watching years has been the goaltending. We have had some of the best goalies in the world, and when they say if you have two quarterbacks, you don't have one. Well, if the United States has two or three goalkeepers, we might not have one right now. So, who do you expect to start tomorrow? If it's been announced yet, let us know. And then, what do you think about this U.S. team's chances as a whole?
Man, I don't know. I'd probably imagine he'd go with Turner, right? Tried
Okay.
and trusted. But this team as a whole, I don't think the issues are so much down to goalkeeping. I think the issues are just the defending. And this
Mm.
is not a bad defense by any means, right? You have two players that are playing over in the Premier League that play at a really high level. But it just hasn't quite worked out. And, Pochettino has really tinkered with their defensive, I guess their say formation and tactical strategy. Throughout the build up to the World Cup, he's switched between a back three, a back four, trying to find the formula that works right. I mean, to be really honest, he's tinkered with the entire setup of this team, whether who's he's going to play out in the wings, who he's going to play in the middle of the field. I think that you can take some solace of what happened when they played against Germany and say, wow, they looked really good against
Mm.
Germany. But let's be really clear and call a spade a spade. Had it not been for a Galazzo, it would be 2-0. And yes, they could have deserved more goals. I feel like defensively, that's where their biggest issue is going to be. Like they let Belgium put five past them. They've just let teams can like score and score on them. But to be really clear about the United States, they're going to advance from their group because they get the benefit of playing in a, I don't want to say easy, but one of the easier groups. And how that happened is because you have to remember all the host nations get put in pot one, which means they're going to be playing from teams in other pots and not they don't have to worry about playing against an England, a Spain, a Portugal, a Brazil, Argentina until they get to the round of 16 or beyond. Unless, of course, one of those big name teams that I mentioned end up coming in third place in their group, which I don't see happening.
Yeah.
So
So right now up on FanDuel, there are odds on to reach not the round of 32, but to reach the round of 16. And the United States is minus 135. If we think they're obviously a shoe in to reach the round of 32, what does that matchup look like in the round of 32? And do you think minus 135 is a good play on them to win that match and advance to the round of 16?
I guess that really becomes a question of, do you think they're going to be minus 135 favorites against a team like Egypt? Right? Do you think that when that match comes, what would they make that price? Actually, not too sure that they would make it minus 135. I think they probably make it minus 115, probably no more than that.
Mm,
And so maybe I wouldn't bet that. I actually think there's a little bit more value in taking a stage of elimination bet on the United States in the round of 16. It's around plus 250, 260 or whatever. I don't know. That line might have moved since I've last looked. But from my estimation, if they win their group, they're probably going to be playing against a team like Belgium in the round of 16. If they lose their group, and by lose, I mean come in second, they'll be playing
mhm.
against Argentina. And I just don't think they match up well against either of those teams.
Do you think this is a tournament where, and I'm not just saying this to, like, sound square ball or whatnot, but with the assumption, for lack of a better term, of knowing what teams are going to advance for their groups, have you put together any group winner parlays, like with some of these heavy favorites that we really just can't see them not finishing first in their group?
Yeah, I did. I put some together. Let me actually pull those up because typically I don't normally bet like this, right?
Yeah.
And I mean typically in like in other tournaments, in other sports where I take a bunch of favorites. But soccer's just one of those sports that where heavy favorites are just really so much better. And then now it's going to be over a 3-game sample. I took a couple. Let me pull up the first one. Oh, let me go. Here we go. The first one that I took was Spain, England, Brazil to win their group at plus 111. And I think Spain and Brazil are like, I mean, Spain and England are the two top dogs in terms of they're not going to mess around with their food. Like a team
Yeah.
like France, who I think is going to win the World Cup, there's a
Mm,
real possibility that they play around with their food a little too much because they know how good they are. But England has the elite defense that they've had, and they'll probably keep clean sheets in every match. And then Spain is just fantastic. They're like my anchors. Well, I went parlayed one with Brazil and parlayed the other with France because while I do think all 3 of those teams easily win their group, there could be a case made that maybe Brazil or maybe France might slip up somewhere, and so I wanted to make sure that I got my anchor in, and now I have 2 chances to win a little bit of money.
it's interesting. You look at the futures market here, and up on FanDuel, Spain is your favorite to win the tournament, plus 450. France, the team that you think is going to win, is plus 500. Kylian Mbappe is your favorite to win the Golden Boot at plus 600 as the player that's going to score the most goals here in this tournament. Would you rather have the future on France to win the World Cup, or would you rather play into the awards market for a guy like Kylian Mbappe or maybe one of his teammates to win the Golden Ball as the player of the tournament?
Listen, I wrote a column 2 months ago or maybe 3 months ago, and in my column, I wrote Michael Olise to win the Golden Ball, 50 to 1. Look at his price now, 10 to
He's
1.
he is the odd he's the favorite up on FanDuel right now at plus 650 to win the
You
FIFA
know
Golden Ball as the player of the tournament.
You know how sick I am, and you know why I'm sick? Because I was writing for a European company, and I had no access to that number, and I knew that line was never going to exist. I don't know anybody who's in England could go place that bet for me. But I'm gonna answer your question. Would I rather bet Mbappe to win the Golden Boot or bet France to win the World Cup? How about both? I
Yeah.
bet both in a parlay. First and foremost, Mbappe, he just scores goals, right? And we saw Michael Olise have the hat trick in the friendly. We saw Mbappe miss a couple. We saw Mbappe actually put one in the back of the net that didn't count. I think there's a real possibility that Mbappe goes nuts as long as he's healthy because of the players on his team, because of players like Michael Olise, the best creator in all of German football, because of guys like Ryan Cherky, the best creator or one of the best creators in all of the Premier League. He has those guys to facilitate him to him, and also it helps that he has a player like Ousmane Dembele on the squad
Mhm.
because they can't just try to eliminate Mbappe out of the game because if they do, Olise will kill them. If they do, Dembele will kill them. If they do, let's say even Desiree Doué is in there, he will kill them. The attack for the French, you have to really take account for everyone in that attack, and you just can't shade to one side or try to take someone out of a game because there's going to be someone else on the pitch that's going to hurt you.
All right. Besides France, who are some other nations that you're looking at? And I just watched an interview from I think it was on 60 Minutes with the mathematician. I think he's a mathematician, the guy that has predicted like 4 straight World Cup winners by using his I forgot what it was. It's not just a soccer model. Like he uses
Yeah.
like a socio-economic model to figure out like countries and how they're doing financially, right? And it's like
Yeah.
based on the country's like financial and economic standards combined with the weather in that country, right? Because he's like, hey, they have money to spend on training. They have ideal conditions to train in and things like that. He has picked the winner. And again, you can Google this. I think it was on 60 Minutes. This guy who's picked
Yeah.
like the last couple of World Cups. Oh, by the way, not exactly hard to when you're picking the favorites, right?
Who do you
Like,
pick this year?
it was the Netherlands. And I saw them at 17-1, and I'm like, that's pretty interesting. Like, does the Netherlands have a chance to reach the World Cup final, which they've done before?
I don't think the Netherlands are going to win this tournament.
Okay.
Um, I'm not sitting here and going to rely on Cody Gakpo, Danielle Mullen, and Memphis Depay as my leaders in attack. And as good as everyone touts their back line, this is also a team that has defensive fragility. And I don't think you can win a World Cup being defensively vulnerable unless you have an attack that's just out of this world.
Yeah, this was a German mathematician, Joachim Clement, has predicted the Netherlands will win the World Cup. He correctly picked the previous 3 winners: Germany in 2014, France in 2018, and Argentina 4 years ago.
That's
So
funny.
we'll see if the Netherlands comes through and this guy makes it 4 for 4. Hey, maybe he knows something that we don't. Maybe he's from the future. I don't know. I feel
Yeah,
like
he
we do
could be,
things like
right?
that. All right, Brad, let's get some game picks out of you. What do you already have in pocket? You looked at the schedule. There's only 2 games here today on Thursday. Tomorrow, the United States, as I mentioned, gets underway with their tournament when they take on Paraguay. And then it should be a very, very busy weekend. What have you bet so far for the opening matches? What can you give us here on the pod?
Yeah, I bet Mexico in the Mexico versus South Africa match. I took Mexico to win in under 6.5 goals. I think this is going to be a match that's going to play pretty well to the under. But I just have a really tough time seeing Mexico not win this match. Opening the tournament, playing against a South African team that I don't rate all that high, and a team in Mexico that, despite the turmoil that they've had in their federation in terms of fans towards the federation, they've actually been playing pretty good. And it feels like they're finally coming to their own in an attacking sense, and we know they're going to defend well. So I took that. It was like around -110.
Okay. So that's a parlay you're saying though. Mexico to
Yes,
win and then the under under what is it?
3.5 goals.
Under 3.5. Okay. So Mexico to win and under 3.5. What about for this United States game against Paraguay? Because I mentioned like the goaltending issues and whatnot. I was looking at the total and this is something that I found fascinating. If you go back and look since I think it's 1990, like the last 30 U.S. men's national team games at the World Cup, there have only been 5 instances where either team has scored 3 goals. So 25 out of 30 World Cup matches for the U.S. men have seen both teams score under 3 goals. I don't know if it's like, hey, parlaying both team totals under 2.5 or whatever it is, but what do you think about the scoring possibilities here for the first match, USA and Paraguay?
I actually took USA team total over 1.5.
Okay.
Um, I just think that this United States team has a bunch of really talented players, and when they get on domestic soil, they hit that next gear and get to that next level, which is something that it's really hard to explain. Like Christian Pulisic hasn't played that well in Milan this season, and just when he becomes Captain America, his levels change. You also
Mm.
think about Wes McKennie. He's played pretty good for Juventus. He's probably going to be the most influential player for the United States. And just looking at the track record for the United States team on domestic soil, they tend to come alive. And the attack has never been a problem for the United States in this buildup. It's just been defensively. So if you're a fan of the United States to win this game, I think you have to be a fan of their team total over 1.5 because I just don't feel like they're going to keep a clean sheet. They could prove me wrong, right? And I have no problem being wrong in that situation, right? But I just don't think that's going to happen. I just have a really tough time trusting them. And they couldn't have asked for a better situation in terms of location and timing. They're going to be playing in SoFi, like you mentioned earlier,
Mhm.
and what was I gonna say? They're gonna be playing in SoFi, like you mentioned earlier, and the weather is fantastic. The weather
Yeah.
is gonna be about 72 degrees. It's LA weather. So I think for minus 110 for the money line is not as good as like plus 128 for the team total.
Yeah, I'm seeing up on FanDuel right now, plus 124. So obviously that number ticking down. Better get in on it now. Over 1.5 goals for the United States, plus 124. Before we wrap this up, Brad, what's a fun wager that you're going to be betting a lot of here during this World Cup? Something that there's new bettors that are coming in during the World Cup. They're obviously going to look at size. They're going to look at totals. That thankfully on the U.S. sports books, they don't have to worry about the Asian handicaps. It's a whole other discussion for a whole other pod. But what's a fun bet that somebody coming in for the first time, watching the World Cup on TV, maybe they're going to a bar and watch the game, they want to place a bet on whether it's the United States or whoever, what's a fun wager they can look at?
Um, I'll just give you the United States corners over in the first game. The number is like 4.5, and it's pretty juice minus 160. But I feel like if you're just betting for fun, you really don't care that much about the odds, right? Like you just want to go out there and you want to win. And the United States are going to be coming with a bat out of hell, right? They're going to just
Mm,
be firing away. And if you think that price is too gross, I think what you do is you like go and ladder their corners, like take over 7.5 corners, and that's plus money, and just put a little bit on it. Like that's not it doesn't take a lot of logic to know that the United States is going to be really amped up for this to prove
yeah.
who they are amongst the world's powers.
Yeah, I see over 4.5 corners up on FanDuel minus 122. They also have race to corners, race to five. The United States is minus 105. Race to
Wow.
seven, USA plus 290. But as you mentioned, if you want to do home corners, like home corners over 7.5 plus 460. You think the US gets 8 corners in the game, or you could just do over 5.5 at plus 146. But it could be a fun little ladder. That's a fun bet, corners, because hey, if you know that one team's going to be attacking more than the other, and this is where I think, Brad, this could come into play later in the group stage where you know a team is desperate and needs the win, right? Or needs goals. And so you know that they're pushing and pushing and pushing, and it could lead to the other team playing defense and just kicking the ball out. And next thing you know, there's a corner kick or a goaltender save that goes out of bounds that winds up being a corner kick. So that's a fun
Yeah,
wager that we're going to have to look at.
I'm a big corner better, especially live situational corners. I bet when teams are down a lot, but I typically, unless it's like a team like a Germany who are or Netherlands who already get a lot of corners, I typically wait till the other team sits in a low block
Mm,
and they are only sending like one guy forward in the attack, and then I'll just go and spam corners, especially if it's a really good team
I love it. I
and they're
love it.
losing, right? Like that becomes
Yeah.
you're like, oh, thank you so much.
Oh, well, this is fantastic, Brad. Can't thank you enough for breaking this down for us. We're going to be providing some of your angles and bets to our Better Day Insider and Premium members. But tell everyone what you got going on with Sportsline, where people can find you and watch you throughout the World Cup here over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, you can find me on X first and foremost at Mr. Brad Thomas. Sportsline.com if you want to read some of my stuff. What my favorite thing I want to talk about for you guys is, sometimes it's hard to find my content this year for this World Cup. It's going to be really easy. Either go to the CBS Sports YouTube channel, or you can just turn on to CBS Sports Network on your television provider, and I'll be providing coverage for a few of the games a couple times a week.
Absolutely love that. And of course, we'll have him back here on this pod and on our YouTube channel. You'll catch him with me on VSiN, I'm sure, on the coming weekends here. So Brad's going to be all over the place during the next month here with the world's game in full focus. Brad, appreciate the time, man. Good luck with all your bets.
Thank you. Have a great one.
All right, great insight from Brad on the World Cup, which begins tonight. We will have plays out for Better Day Insider and Premium members, as I mentioned, and we'll get Brad back on the pod after the first, after the group stage is kind of winding down before we get to the round of 32 and then move forward here over the next month or so. A reminder, you guys can follow us across all your social media platforms. Tomorrow, we will have a preview of Game 5 of the NBA Finals from a Spurs perspective with AJ Hoffman, and AJ will also give us a preview of UFC Freedom 250. That's right, the UFC event on Sunday night on the lawn of the White House. Certainly going to be something to see. I'm Scott Seidenberg. Here's hoping you make today and every day a better day.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.